All right, we are recording. I just want to confirm for my listeners, I got Mr. Alan Cross on the phone. Is that you, sir?
That is me. I am here on the phone.
That's awesome. Thanks, Alan. I appreciate you taking the time to chat. Alan was telling me he's at a dog store right now, so we're gonna hope that there's no animal noises in the background while we speak. But
Well, if you hear a dog barking at Schmooze, she has been inside with the cold weather and is just so bored that she needed to get out.
hey, man, God bless you for taking her somewhere. Do a little shopping. Okay, Alan, I want to ask you some personal questions about your history. Do you remember the first album you ever purchased with your own money?
Yes, Elton John's Greatest Hits Volume 1, $4.99 at Robinson's McConkey store in a town that I grew up in north of Winnipeg.
Amazing. How old were you?
Okay, I would have had to have been somewhere around 14, I think. 14, 15. And I know that I earned the money working, delivering papers.
Nice. All right, do you remember what the first concert you ever attended was?
Kiss, Winnipeg Arena with openers Cheap Trick, July 19th, 1978.
1978. And how many times have you seen Kiss since?
Probably half a dozen times. But that was a hell of a way to start because it was the Love Gun tour, and there was lots of flames and exploding guitars and breathing fire and all kinds of stuff. So it was a hell of a way to start things off.
Well, I can imagine. Like nowadays, you say those things. I think of a band like Rammstein, and these guys pioneered that type of pyrotechnic set, right?
Oh yeah, nobody was doing anything like that back then. This was a live act before they were a recording act, really, or at least before they started making money recording. And they went to town on every show that they put on.
Unfortunately, I've never had the pleasures of seeing them, but I only know a few of their songs, but it's more about the theatrics when you go see Kiss. You don't necessarily.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was totally nuts, totally crazy. I mean, these guys in costumes with, big boots and everything. It was, but if you're 14 years old or 15 years old, however old I was, it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I've made this joke to people before. Growing up as a Jewish boy, it was tough enough to tell my parents I had a love for music and I wanted to be in music. I can't imagine coming home with, as Chaim, Gene Simmons, if you will, telling his bubby with all that makeup on his face that he was going to be a rock star.
Yeah, I know.
What would you say, I know this is a tough one, so I don't blame you if you can't give me a specific answer, but what would you say is your favorite album of all time?
Well, there's a couple that I will always go back to. One is Pretty Hate Machine from the 9 Inch Nails. I would probably also pick the first Stone Roses record. But if I had to pick one overall, I would go with Who's Next from The Who, 1971. I think that's as close to a perfect rock record as you can get.
It's one of those ones you just put on from front to back. It's all.
Yeah, I mean, just about every song ended up on the radio. Just about every song is classic.
You know what? You bring up 9 Inch Nails. I have to ask. A friend of mine is very. He was excited when I heard I was going to talk to you. He said he had a pass with you. I want to say his name and see if you remember. Do you remember a guy by the name of Kent Martell?
Yeah, vaguely, yes, I do.
So Kent entered a contest years ago, and he won, and he got to meet Trent Reznor, and it was for a remix of one of Trent's songs.
Ah, right, okay.
And he said that he handed you a catalog of his music, and you came back and you actually spent a half an hour dissecting all of his songs, and he really appreciated that.
I'm glad I did. I was worried you were going to tell me that I ignored him.
No. We wouldn't bring that up if you did, Alan.
Okay, good.
I got to ask you, because I know you're a pioneer of information, like you when it comes to investigating things. Do you still use the library as a resource?
I use my library. I have a very, very, very large collection of books that I've been amassing over the last 25 years. So chances are my library is better than anything that I could find in a building elsewhere.
So I'd never catch you down at the Bloor Reference Library?
I never really needed to, but I wouldn't say that you wouldn't.
Okay. I gotta ask, honestly, Alan, I've known you for many years, And in the last, I'd say 4 or 5, you've been one of those people whose name, when I say it, people know who you are. When would you say your popularity began to rise? When did you notice it getting to where it is today?
I really don't pay much attention to it. The only thing that I have made it my mission to do is to be nice to people. And when people ask for something, when people, ask to talk or ask for my attention, to give it to them.
Like we are right now.
Yeah, and I try never to say no to anybody, because you never know where these people may, it's just the right thing to do. It really is. So I try to not pay attention to the whole famous thing, because once you get involved in that, you completely lose the plot after a while. I realize that I have a public standing and I'm a public persona, which means I'd better be very careful, because especially in the age of social media, you do the one wrong thing and that could be it for you. The other thing is just be nice to people, and you'll have a much better career. Don't be a dick.
No, it's profound in what you're saying. As you were speaking, I was thinking of someone else who's gained very big popularity over the last, and that's Joe Rogan with his podcast. I think you have a lot of similarities in your genuine nature, in your kindness, and I think you have the ability to maybe get away with some things that maybe others couldn't, because people really do have a liking, and they know that you're speaking truth. You're speaking history. It's not necessarily always your perspective. You're just stating facts. And yeah, man, people admire you. It's you've really tapped into a niche, and people, it's brought the radio back alive.
Well, if you're honest and authentic, and you are enthusiastic about what you're doing, and you show that you really care about not only what you do, but what people think about what you do, and you always strive to do better, well, then you'll be fine. There's always going to be bumps and zigs and zags along the way. I mean, I've been fired a couple of times, but still, I've been doing this since 1981, which is a lot longer than a lot of other people. So I don't want to keep doing it. So you just like I say, be nice, don't be a dick.
Well, it's great, and also you've come up with a very interesting show with the ongoing history of new music. Can you point to one thing that inspired you to want to start doing that show?
Oh, I didn't. I had no interest in starting the show. What happened was that the company, the radio station, was actually purchased by a new company, and there was new management. And for a while, there was a thought that they were going to switch the radio station over to country music. But then they looked around. This is 1992. They looked around, and they found out that there was this alternative thing happening with bands like Pearl Jam and Nirvana and Soundgarden. They thought, okay, well, we're going to give this a try. But in order to do it properly, what we're going to have to do is tell people where this music came from and why it matters. So they looked around, found one guy on staff with a history degree, me, and said, you're going to do this show. It's going to be called this. And that's the end of it. If you don't want to do it, well, what's going to happen is we're going to fire you, and we'll find somebody else to do it. So I had just got married, and I just recently got my first house. So I really didn't have much of a choice. So, okay, fine, we'll make lemonade out of these lemons. And after 2 weeks, they stopped paying attention to what I was doing and just let me do what I wanted to do. And that was 846 shows ago.
Amazing, Alan. You know what? I don't know if this is a good correlation, but it reminds me of hearing an arranged marriage that lasted 60 years and they're so happy. It's like...
It was very much an arranged situation, and I went into it kicking and screaming and against my will, but again, what was I going to do?
That's amazing.
And now I can't imagine not doing it.
I can't. You're synonymous with, like when your name is said, that's the first thing they butcher the name. They're like, oh yeah, the new music guy. Nobody knows the full name, but they always know who you are.
They always get it wrong. I know. They always get it wrong. But because, again, I didn't come up with the name. It's a terrible name, but it's just the way it is.
You know what? I gotta ask. There was a brief hiatus I remember on the show. When there was that hiatus, did you still have anything sidebarred where you did similar things? Called it something else?
Yeah, there was a couple of years I did something for Standard. Oh, I guess it was. Yes, please. Who was it then? I guess it would have been Bell. No. Who was it? Standard. can't remember the company
I
now.
don't remember either.
So whoever bought Standard?
Was it
but
Chorus?
anyway,
Not Chorus, right?
no, it wasn't Chorus.
I don't know.
It was, I'm drawing a complete blank.
It's okay.
But the company that bought, thank you. The company that bought Standard. Anyway, I did a show for 3 years with them called The Secret History of Rock. And also during that time, I helped put Indie 88 on the air in Toronto. So that kept me busy for a number of years. And I did a tour with William Shatner, and I did some work with the Ontario Science Centre and a few other things. But then, 3 years after Chorus decided that they didn't want me, they wanted me back. And that was 2014, and I've been there ever since. So we kissed and made up. And the other interesting thing is that all the people that were responsible for me leaving in the first place are now gone. So I'm the only one left in that whole crew, including the people that fired me.
Good for you. Good for you, Al. You know what? I remember I met Alan when the Edge used to be back on Bathurst and Bloor. And those were fun days, man. People coming into the studio all the time, and just even at Yonge and Dundas there, it's fun. You know, it's a fun time.
That was a very radical way of presenting radio to the public. Nobody had ever done that sort of thing quite like that before. And what was interesting is that we'd have people come in from the U.S., like bands come in from the U.S., and look around and go, "Wow, how are you doing this? How can you manage this?" And I said, "Well, aren't you afraid?" And go, "No, it's Canada. We're fine." How does that apply? Okay, wait a sec. Phone's going to switch over here just a
No
second.
problem, man. If only I had some music, some transition music would be nice right now.
Okay. Yeah. There we go. There we go.
This is how we do it.
Speakerphone in the car. Okay.
You're good?
So, okay. Yeah, good.
Okay. But yeah, it was very bohemian. Is that a good word? It was new age.
It was certainly different, and it was certainly an attempt to be very streetwise and very accessible. And we figured that this was the only way that we could effectively connect with our listeners on a one-to-one level. And it worked really, really well. So we started with the studio at Bloor at Bathurst. That was around for about 3 years, I think. And then we moved the entire operation to the Eaton Center. So the station was up in the tower, and we had three different locations along Yonge Street, where we would have live performances, have interviews, and then broadcast certain parts of the day. Mm-hmm. All very good, all very accessible to the audience, and nobody else was doing that.
No, and I miss it. I really do miss it. Were you guys involved with the street shows? Like, for instance, when REM was on Yonge Street?
No. But those shows would not have happened had we not been there. I'm pretty sure of that. There was, at that time, a large amount of cooperation between the radio station and all the record stores that were there, especially HMV and Sam the Record Man. So with two big flagship record stores and with the radio station, that was a real reason for the shows. There was the REM show, there was the Red Hot Chili Pepper show, and maybe one or two others.
Oh, the one, I remember Green Day. Remember Green Day in the alleyway behind HMV?
Yeah, that was an HMV show. There also was a Sloan show that we played. They played on the roof of our studio at the time.
That's awesome.
And there were, for a while when the Eaton Center was under construction, the radio station worked out of a trailer in the park that is now home to that arcade at Bay and Dundas. And we had some events there as well.
Cool. Okay, I got to ask then, this kind of leads into it. What is your involvement, if any, with Roxodus?
I am the official media mouthpiece for Roxodus. I'm doing some consulting with them as to programming and staging of the festival. So that's one of the things I'm doing over the course of the winter. They called me and said, "Would you give us would you give us a hand?" And given that I had spent a number of years programming EdgeFest, it was kind of a nice marriage because I knew about a little bit about concert promotion and concert execution. So now we're all working together, and that's coming up on July 11th and 13th.
Yeah, and the lineup's amazing. You guys keep adding people to it. I saw Billy Idol recently and Blondie. Am I right in saying?
Yeah, and there will be more. There will be more.
That's awesome. It's would we know these people? Because there's a promoter that disappeared years ago. They used to throw the big music fest. Do you remember that? They
not,
had.
not,
Sorry, go ahead, Al.
not those people. These people have never done contests before. They have done other large events like huge motorcycle rallies, but they've never done a concert before. So this is their first attempt at this, and it's so far so good. Ticket sales are very brisk. All the acts have already been paid. They own the site on which the festival will take place, and they're looking to make this an annual affair.
That's what I like to hear, Alan. Annual affair. I'd love it, especially one that doesn't make me have to travel out of the country or even out of the province to have a good time. I'm really excited about it.
Well, that's been the problem, because since Molson Park disappeared, there hasn't really been a good venue for a festival. Even Molson Park had a capacity of 33,000 and didn't allow for anything like camping or RVs or glamping or anything like that. So we haven't had, other than Burrells Creek, which has its own challenges, we haven't had a place to stage a festival. The Toronto Islands would be great, but again, no camping, transportation to and from the mainland's bad. Downsview Park, nice area, but problems with neighbors, and the whole property is managed by 3 levels of government. So that's a nightmare. And beyond that, you kind of run out of places to hold a festival. So this new spot, the Eatonville Airport, just south of Wasaga, is, we're pretty bullish on it.
I haven't seen the site, so maybe I should Google Map it, but I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to it. The one thing I want to say, too, about Molson Park that was an issue was you would literally park your car on the highway and just start walking, because the only way in and out was the 400. So
yeah, that was tough.
It was really tough. I was a kid, and I remember my buddy's mom, literally, she would drive us to about 5 or 6 kilometers before we would just get out and start walking. And then when the concert was done, same idea, just walk down the road and she'll be at the gas station or something, some little meeting spot. But
yeah, there were some, if you knew what you were doing, there were a couple of backways in and out, but they were not, you really had to know what you were doing.
I was going to say, we were city folk, we didn't know nothing. But I got to ask this, sticking with Molson Park, do you think we'll ever see a throwback to EdgeFest? And I mean like an old school EdgeFest.
Well, again, the problem is one of economics. Right now, everybody is making their money touring, so there's a lot of demand for artists at festivals worldwide during that really tight 3 or 4 month window in the Northern Hemisphere. And trying to get bands to come into Canada for a one-off festival thing is really hard, especially when there are competing offers from Europe. So that's a problem. The other problem is the Canadian dollar. The American dollar is the currency that everybody wants to get paid in, and with a 75 or 74 cent dollar, it's tough. Concert ticket prices have to go way up to compensate for that 25% decline in buying power. So and the other thing about this part of the world is that there is something happening every single weekend from May until the end of September. So the competition for everyone's attention in dollars is really fierce. So unless you have an absolutely stellar lineup in a fantastic venue that's going to provide great value for the money, it's very difficult to have an event like that again. Nobody wants to do it at Ontario Place anymore. There's nothing festival or fun about an amphitheater, and there's no other place in the city that we could do it. There just isn't. Believe me, if we had found one, we would have continued with EdgeFest.
You know which venue I like, Alan, that is the Echo Beach, I think they call it?
Yeah, that's nice. Nice, compact, it's fine, but it's not a festival thing. You can't do the camping thing.
No.
See, the other thing that's happened is that we've had events like Coachella and Bonnaroo show up in North America, and that's completely redefined the concert experience, or the festival experience. experience for a lot of people. So unless you can provide something like that, then people aren't interested.
I hear you, man. And very valid. Like, as much as I hate to hear what you're saying, especially the economical thing, because I personally am a festival goer, and you pretty much know which bands you're going to see after the first festival drops their flyer, because it's the touring bands. They're just going to hop festival to festival. You're going to see a little mixture, but you're not going to see very many one-offs. You know, it's when I was thinking about the EdgeFest I'd like to see, it would have to be a bunch of guys that you just pull one-offs to do that, like you said, a one-off show, and they're not going to do it. It's not economical. So,
no.
It sucks to hear, but it's the truth. Okay, I got to ask you, here's a difficult question, but I hope you'll provide an answer. If you could create a Mount Rushmore for rock music, who would your four faces be?
The Beatles. We're done.
That's it. Come on.
Yeah. No. Everything always comes back to the Beatles. And there's just no way that you can say that Beatles. Sorry, that's the way it is.
Oh my God, you left Elton John and all the members of The Who. Mr. Townsend would not be happy.
I did. Sorry.
I think you have an involvement with this, so that's why I'm going to pose you this question. Why do we hear the same songs out in all the hockey arenas?
Because, well, I used to be the music director for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And what we did was we researched songs that play well and have good reactions with sporting crowds. And there's a surprisingly limited number that do. And other people in other arenas and stadiums across the world have discovered exactly the same thing. There are certain songs that are made for a sporting event, and everybody uses the same ones. And when I was doing this, and we did this for 2 years, there was very little that we could introduce that would get that rise out of the crowd. Sports audiences are conditioned to respond to certain songs over the decades, and that's just the way it's going to be.
Well, and so it's interesting. So you guys actually don't come together and meet and decide these are the songs all the arenas are going to play. It's just that you guys are all looking for the same kind of solution, I guess?
Pretty much. Pretty much. And, you know, I have met with, I don't do this anymore, but I had met with a number of people in Tampa, Los Angeles, Columbus, Edmonton, Winnipeg, and a few others. And we all agreed that with the exception of some regional favorites, these are the songs that people go nuts over.
Okay, I got to ask, because I think I debated this with somebody in the past about the rhythm to Seven Nation Army. You know, that doom, 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 doom. I said, I think that they've been humming that in Europe for years. I'm like, I think Jack... Well, go ahead.
Well, no, there was an Italian soccer club that their fans decided to adopt that. And that would have been shortly after the song came out. And from there, it kind of spread to stadiums and arenas around the world.
So you're saying that Jack White is first. He didn't copy it from the stadiums.
No, the stadium, the fans, and I can't remember the name of the team, but I know they were in Italy. The fans, for some reason, adopted that, and Jack White has made some money ever since.
I'm sure, because honestly, when I think of that rhythm, I can even hear the ho, like the stadium people doing it. And I'm like, I swear that riff is like a soccer chant, but I guess it's because it's almost like when I heard Richard Pryor, and I thought he was nothing more than a ripoff of Eddie Murphy.
Right.
Right? Because I heard that first, right?
Right. No, I can tell you that Jack White came first.
Okay, good. Thank you for solving that. I got one final question for you. Please solve this debate I've been having with everybody. Who would win in a fight between a gorilla and a black bear?
If it's a silverback gorilla, it's the gorilla.
Thank you. You know what? I have
800,
to... Go ahead.
800 pounds of gorilla will take on a bear.
How about if it was a polar bear?
Is the polar bear fighting in a jungle, or is the gorilla fighting on an Arctic ice floe?
I say we meet in common ground and they're both in the Middle East.
Well, that would be, I don't know. That'd be a tough one to predict. Polar bears are big and pretty vicious. They get slow and heat. gorillas slow down the cold. We'll call that one a draw.
There you go. Yeah, what I said is, does the polar bear have any Coca-Cola to drink and help boost his morale? But
Good point.
in all honesty, I think it would come down to who got the first strike. If the polar bear got his claws onto that gorilla, but if he missed and the gorilla got his hands on that polar bear, I think it would be done. But anyways, Al,
Awesome.
sorry. I appreciate you taking the time to talk. I don't want to take you from your family and your pup any longer, so I will say a farewell. But hopefully we get to do this again.
All right, you're welcome.
All right, thanks, Al. Take care, man.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. All right, there he was, Mr. Alan Cross. I always enjoy talking to him. He's a wealth of knowledge, and if you know his show, you love his show, you know what I mean. If you don't, just give it a Google. The Ongoing History of New Music with Alan Cross. It's been going, I guess, since '92, like he said. I didn't realize it went back that far. I've been listening to him, I guess, since 2009 or 10-ish. But I've known him since I was a kid. When I was younger, I used to answer phones at the Edge. I'd go in there and help Peter and Martin and Brother Bill sometimes. So Alan worked in there, and he always was nice to me. And he still is. He's always been a very kind guy. Like he said in the interview, just be nice to people, and the world will be nice to you. As always, guys, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, peace out.